I first met Anthony on a September afternoon, when Madison was just starting to shift into its early seasonal chill. I wasn't the type to be easily drawn to the popular guys on the Badgers football team. Honestly, I always thought they were loud, full of testosterone, and never saw the world beyond the field. But then Anthony appeared in my life like a powerful collision I wasn't prepared to defend against. It started off so ordinary, like the opening scenes in a coming-of-age movie. I was standing next to the humanities building, holding a latte, seriously trying to finish reading the last 20 pages of philosophy that the professor required before the afternoon seminar. The cold wind blew, golden leaves falling in that postcard-perfect autumn way. And then Anthony ran by, literally running, because he was in the middle of a training jog during his break. I didn't recognize him as Anthony right away. I just saw a tall guy, broad-shouldered, wearing a sweat-soaked red training shirt, his blonde hair a bit messy from the workout. He stopped at the public water fountain a few steps away from me, hands on his knees, breathing heavily. It wasn't until he looked up that I saw the familiar face. Not familiar like, oh, I know this person, but like, oh, that's the face plastered all over the Badgers posters at the stadium entrance.
Anthony Hale.
The star tight end. The kind of guy the whole school had a crush on. And I swear, the first glance he gave me lasted only half a second, but it was long enough to make my heart skip a beat. I reacted instinctively. I looked down at my book, pretending the Greek philosophers were incredibly fascinating. So ridiculous. Me, Andrew, 20 years old, majoring in literature, gay in a peaceful way, not hiding it but not broadcasting it either. I wasn't new to liking straight guys. I'd grown up enough to learn how to avoid that kind of heartache. It's just, Anthony was too handsome not to steal another glance. Of course, I thought that was the end of it. A meaningless eye contact between two completely unrelated people. I didn't even plan to tell my best friend, Dylan, because he'd burst out laughing and say something like, "Daydreaming about hot jocks again, Andy?" But life sometimes likes to play tricks. The next day, I went to the Memorial Library to work on an essay, and guess who walked in with that wide stride, shoulders bumping the air around him? Yep, Anthony, with the whole team behind him. They were loud as a herd of elephants, but Anthony broke off and headed to the quiet study area. He didn't look at me, didn't glance, didn't notice. I prepared myself for that. But just a few minutes later, as I was trying to bury my face in my laptop, a deep voice sounded from the side of the table. "Is this seat taken?" I looked up and nearly choked. Anthony was standing next to me. He pointed at the chair across from me. 1,000 questions exploded in my head. Why sit here? The library's huge. Did he mistake me for someone else? I managed one word. No. He pulled out the chair, dropped his backpack with a thud, and looked at me for exactly 3 seconds. Calm, polite, and curious? I was so flustered that I pretended to type furiously, like I was the most serious student in school. 5 minutes passed, then 10. I started to forget Anthony was sitting across from me, until I heard the sound of pages turning, then a light sigh, like the kind when you're stuck on a tough assignment. I glanced up. Anthony was frowning at a page in his textbook. Introductory philosophy textbook. The same class I was taking. He looked up right then, catching my eye. "Are you in Professor Daniel's philosophy class?" I froze. "Yeah. You?" Anthony nodded slightly. "I'm struggling with yesterday's reading. Do you get that part about moral obligations?" Was the universe really pushing me toward him? I stammered. "A little. Could you explain it to me a bit? If it's a bother, I'll move to another table." Lord, who could refuse a guy who's 6 feet 3 inches with eyes as blue as Lake Mendota when he's that polite? I nodded. "It's no bother." So we sat there for nearly 2 hours. 2 hours where I tried to focus on philosophy, while my brain was cheering because we were less than a meter apart. Anthony wasn't like the other players I'd met. He listened, nodded, took notes. He even smiled faintly once when I gave a sarcastic example about utilitarianism. At the end of our study session, he stood up, packed his things, and said something that froze me. "Thanks, Andrew. I owe you a coffee." I was about to ask how he knew my name, but before I could, Anthony had already walked away, hands in his pockets, his tall figure blending into the wide library hallway. He remembered my name. He wanted to repay me. He noticed. I tried to push those stupid thoughts away. A football player was just being polite, and that would be the end of it. But I was wrong. Anthony wasn't not noticing me. He was just pretending. If that day in the library was just a coincidence, I thought everything would end with a brief act of kindness between strangers. But into the new week, Anthony started appearing a lot in a suspiciously frequent way. I'm not the paranoid type, but when a football player who outweighs me by dozens of pounds, whose life orbits around the stadium and gym, suddenly shows up in places I frequent, well, I started to get a little unsettled. Monday morning, I went to Der Ratskeller for a hot mocha. The weather was quite cold, wind whipping my face and numbing my ears. I opened the door and stepped in, expecting the usual crowd of students, but the first thing I saw was a tall figure standing right by the counter. Anthony. He was in a red hoodie, hair a bit messy, probably just from the gym. I tried to slip to the side to avoid being noticed, but of course, life isn't that easy. Anthony turned around right as I looked down. Andrew. I froze like I'd been caught red-handed. Ooh-ee. His smile looked so effortless. You like the mocha here too? I blinked. Yeah, good. 'Cause I was just thinking, today I'll get you one. As thanks for the philosophy help the other day. I reacted purely on instinct. No need. Really. Anthony frowned like he wasn't pleased. I want to. Don't make me feel like I'm bothering you. My heart jolted. Bothering? How could I ever feel bothered? In the end, I just stammered, thanks then. Anthony chuckled softly, the confident kind without arrogance. Then he ordered 2 mochas, handed me one, and found an empty table. For some reason, he didn't sit alone. He waved me over. Sit with me for fun. I have 10 minutes before team meeting. I walked over, trying to act calm but panicking inside about what was happening. Anthony wanted to sit with me? We talked for a bit, just a short while, but enough for me to realize Anthony wasn't the type to befriend everyone. He asked about my classes, what books I read, even my favorite spot on campus. Nothing heavy, but it all made me feel noticed, and that feeling was dangerous. I knew from life experience that guys who aren't for me shouldn't get too close, especially straight, popular, handsome ones sculpted by the school's PR team. But Anthony was different, at least different from what I'd imagined. You know, he said, stirring his mocha, eyes looking down at the table in a rare way. I'm not good at philosophy. I often miss the meaning in those readings. So you really helped me the other day. I laughed. You're good at football. Anthony shrugged. I'm just a guy trying to survive Gen EDS like everyone else. That statement made me pause. It was so real. No glamour. No arrogance. The 10 minutes flew by so fast I thought it was only 2. Anthony stood up, grabbed his backpack, and lightly patted my shoulder. A small gesture that sent tingles down my spine. See you later, Andrew. And thanks again. This mocha is really good. He left, leaving me sitting like someone who'd just fallen into an emotional pit with no intention of climbing out. But it didn't stop there. On Wednesday, I ran into Anthony again in the study room at Science Hall. This time, he sat down next to me without asking. What are you studying? American literature. Can I see? I handed him the book. Anthony flipped a few pages, read the beginning, and smiled. I like how you take notes. Concise, easy to understand. I swallowed. You're exaggerating. No, he wasn't. Because a few minutes later, Anthony pulled out his own notes and showed me. And oh God, his handwriting looked like it was written with his left hand in a tornado. You know, I blurted out a joke I shouldn't have. Looking at your writing, I get why you needed help. Anthony narrowed his eyes, then laughed loudly enough that 2 nearby students looked over. I like your honesty. That hit me right in the heart. Then something small happened that left me unsure what to think. When I bent down to pick up a dropped pen, Anthony's hand accidentally brushed mine. Just a light touch, but he pulled back as quickly as I did. And we looked at each other for exactly 3 seconds. 3 seconds that felt like a question hanging in the air. But Anthony broke it with a cough, flipping to another page in his book. I pretended nothing happened too, but my heart couldn't pretend. That evening when I got back to the dorm, Dylan saw my flushed face and immediately jumped in to interrogate me. I didn't tell him everything, just the basics. But Dylan knew me too well. He crossed his arms, squinting. "Andrew, that football guy's into you." I denied it immediately. "No, definitely not. He's just friendly." Dylan smirked like he knew I was fooling myself. "I'm just saying, no one accidentally shows up in front of you that much." I wanted to argue back. But then I remembered Anthony's look when his hand touched mine. Remembered his voice saying, "I like your honesty." And I knew something was changing. But I didn't dare name it. Didn't dare hope. Didn't dare believe. Because Anthony wasn't noticing me. Right? By the 3rd week of the semester, I almost had to admit something I'd been trying to avoid. Anthony was appearing around me so much, it couldn't be called coincidence anymore. But I still didn't dare think further. People are prone to self-delusion, especially when the heart is already soft. Friday afternoon, I left the seminar and walked along Observatory Drive. The weather had turned noticeably colder, the kind that numbed my hands despite the wool gloves. The sun was dipping toward Lake Mendota, bathing the campus in a soft golden-orange glow that tugged at the heart. I pulled my scarf up and kept walking toward the dorm. Suddenly, a voice called from behind. "Andrew." I turned around. And of course, who else but Anthony, wearing a red and white varsity jacket, beanie pulled low, hands in his pockets like he was keeping warm. I blinked. "Anthony? What are you doing here?" He shrugged. "Walking off stress after practice. Saw you from afar and called." From afar? The campus is crowded. And he recognized me? Anthony came closer, long strides, walking comfortably like talking to me was the most natural thing. "Heading back to the dorm?" I nodded. "Yeah, to do homework." Anthony smiled faintly. "Homework on a Friday? Brave." I pouted. "What do you think I do? Run around campus so someone notices me?" "Oh Lord." That slipped out. Anthony paused for half a second, then gave a very slow smile, the kind that warmed the air a bit. "I wasn't noticing," he replied in a teasing tone. "You're imagining things." I opened my mouth to retort, but Anthony had already passed me, lightly bumping my shoulder with his. A tiny bump, but intentional enough to nearly freeze me. "What? Coming? I'll walk with you a bit." I awkwardly followed. "Don't you have to turn somewhere else?" "No. I have time today." "Why? Do you have time right now?" Anthony looked at me, raising one eyebrow slightly. "Because I want to have time." That sentence hit my heart like a strong pass I couldn't catch. We continued along the path by the slope overlooking the lake. The wind blew hard, messing up my hair. Anthony glanced over once, then zipped his jacket higher, as if worried I'd be cold, even though it was his jacket, not mine. "What do you do on weekends?" he asked. "I probably read. Essay due next week." Anthony laughed. "You're always reading." "Well, literature major." "I know." That "I know" sounded both casual and intimate, making me turn to look at him. "What else do you know?" I asked, half joking, half serious. Anthony didn't answer right away. He adjusted his hat, looking at the road ahead, like he was considering something. I thought he'd changed the subject. But no. Anthony turned back and looked straight at me, his blue eyes so clear it made me awkwardly look away. "I know you're shy. I know you're trying to keep distance. And I know you think I don't notice." I stopped dead in my tracks. "But you're wrong," Anthony continued, his voice low, slow, like he was saying something truly important. My heart pounded so hard I thought I'd pass out. "I notice." I opened my mouth but couldn't get a word out. Anthony saw my reaction and smiled. Not teasing, but gentle enough that I couldn't handle it. "I mean," he went on, "I notice how kind you are to me. I notice how you explain things to me in the library. I notice how you look down whenever I stare at you too long." Oh God. I wanted to die of embarrassment right then. Anthony chuckled softly when he saw my face flush red. "Don't worry," he said. "I don't mean to make you uncomfortable." I swallowed hard, trying to find my voice. "Anthony, are you deliberately teasing me?"
No.
He answered immediately, no thought, no hesitation. "Not teasing. Why, notice me?" I asked, my voice small like it was carried away by the wind. Anthony looked out at the lake for a moment, then spoke with an honesty that made my chest tighten. "Because you don't look at me like others do." I froze. "You don't see me as the lucky football guy the school hypes up. You don't try to impress. You don't see me as the Badgers persona people built." Anthony took a deep, cold breath and exhaled. "You see me as a real person." The air around us suddenly felt heavy and warm at the same time. I opened my mouth, about to say something, anything, but right then Anthony stopped walking. I stopped too. He stood facing me, less than an arm's length away. The sunset light fell on his face, soft and beautiful enough to choke me up. Anthony reached out, then paused midway, not touching me, like he was waiting for permission. "Andrew," he said softly, "there's something I haven't dared tell anyone." My heart clenched. "What?" Anthony glanced at his hand, then at me, like he was trying to read my reaction. "I'm not sure I'm completely straight like everyone thinks." The wind blew through, bone-chilling. But inside me it was burning hot. "You're the first person I've said this to," Anthony continued, his voice almost a whisper. I didn't know what to do. Didn't know if I should step back or forward. But I just stood there, feeling like time had stopped. Anthony pursed his lips a bit, then said slowly, almost breathing, "I think I like you." And in that moment, I understood that everything had gone far beyond, "He's just being polite." Anthony wasn't pretending not to notice me. He'd been noticing for a long time. I stood there on the slope overlooking Lake Mendota, in the dry cold of September in Wisconsin, and my brain was stuck like a laptop about to fry its motherboard. Anthony had just said he liked me. Not hinting, not ambiguous, not beating around the bush like, "I'm curious" or "I'm trying to figure myself out." He liked me, and it was me. I took a long breath, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "Anthony, are you sure?" He pursed his lips, then nodded. "I'm not saying it lightly. I've been thinking about this all week." I gave a nervous laugh. "All week? Just 1 week?" Anthony laughed, tilting his head back a bit. "You think I've only noticed you this week?" "Andrew, I've noticed you since before you knew I existed." I stared. "What?" "Yeah." Anthony shrugged. "From the first time I saw you sitting reading in front of Humanities. That day I was jogging. I blushed immediately. You noticed me back then?" A small guy hugging a latte, trying to hide his face behind a thick book. I thought it was cute. I'm done for. The word cute, coming from Anthony's mouth, made my legs go weak. I turned away, trying to hide my embarrassment. "I can't believe you're saying that to me." "You should believe it." Anthony's voice lowered. "Because I've never said stuff like this to anyone before." I still couldn't look straight at him. "Anthony, this is complicated. I know. You're a Badgers player. You're famous. You have a ton of eyes on you." Anthony frowned. "I don't let them decide how I feel. But if you like guys..." Anthony cut in right away. "I don't know exactly what I am, but I know I'm attracted to you." My face burned. That warmth only made me more confused. I didn't want to be an experiment. Didn't want to be a temporary phase for him. Didn't want to be the one left behind when he got confused or scared of being seen with a guy. And Anthony seemed to read my mind. "Andrew." I still didn't look. "Look at me." I reluctantly turned. His eyes, blue and deep like the lake at dusk, made me hold my breath. "I'm not playing with you," Anthony said slowly. "Not using you to experiment or define myself. I just want to be near you, because it feels real." I swallowed with difficulty. "But what if this goes wrong? If you change your mind? If you're scared?" Anthony breathed deeply. "If I ever panic, I'll tell you. I won't disappear. Won't run." He paused for a second, then added, But I don't want to lose the chance just because I'm afraid. What do you want me to do? Tell me. Oh heavens. How could he say such kind things? I trembled slightly. I just want you to be honest with yourself. And with me. That's all. Then I'm doing that right now. Before I could react, Anthony stepped a little closer. The distance between us shrank until I could feel his breath, cold but strangely warm. But I won't force you to accept this right away. I looked up, our eyes meeting cautiously. Anthony raised his hand very slowly, as if asking permission for every inch. I didn't back away, and so his hand touched my cheek, light as if it were just the wind. Give me a chance to approach you slowly. My heart leaped out of my chest. What do you want? Anthony smiled softly. I want to know what you like besides mocha. Want to know what subject you hate most. Want to know why you like sitting by the library window. Want to know. He leaned down a bit. Want to know what your real laugh sounds like. I had to turn away. I really couldn't handle that look. Anthony, you're saying too much. I haven't said everything yet. Don't say more. Because you'll blush more? I'm not. Anthony's laugh cut me off. He pulled his hand back but stayed next to me. Andrew, I don't need an answer right now. I just want you to know. I like you more than as a friend. I inhaled softly. Just that. Just that. Anthony nodded. But if you allow, I want to start by being a little closer to you. Closer? How much? Anthony raised an eyebrow. Depending on how much you allow. I laughed from sheer nervousness. Oh God. Anthony crossed his arms, tilting his head. Let me walk with you a bit more? I looked at the road ahead. The gentle slope, light golden leaves swirling, the lake sparkling in the distance. Then I looked back at Anthony. A tall, strong guy, but standing before me with a sincerity that made it hard to refuse. Finally, I nodded. Go ahead. Anthony gave a faint smile, the kind that softened my chest. We kept walking, not touching, not saying more. But that silence was strangely comfortable. Anthony wasn't pretending not to notice me anymore. He'd stepped straight into my life in a way I couldn't stop. And this, I knew, was just the beginning. When I stepped out of Anthony's room, the sky was already pitch black. The Wisconsin cold slapped my face, snapping me awake, but my heart was still pounding chaotically like I'd just run a marathon. I shoved my hands into my hoodie pockets, head down as I walked down the dorm hallway, my mind repeating just 3 words. I like him. Not the vague kind of like, not a fun crush. Real. The kind that makes your chest ache a bit when you close your eyes and remember his eyes looking at you when he said, I'm scared of liking you. I got back to my room without remembering the path. When I closed the door, my roommate, Kyle, looked up from his screen. Bro, your face. He raised an eyebrow. Like you just got kissed. I tossed my backpack on the floor. Kyle, shut up. Ah, he whistled, spinning his chair around. Okay, this is big. Tell me. I flopped onto the bed, face in the pillow, groaning long. I don't know. There's something. But he's a football player, Kyle. A Badgers star. He's not allowed to be like that. Kyle chuckled softly. Not allowed? Andrew, you're college students, not actors in a 90s cable TV drama. You like him, he likes you. Done. I propped myself up on my elbows, looking at him incredulously. You make it sound easy. Yeah, because it is. The only issue is if you two dare to. I didn't respond. Kyle turned back to his computer. But before putting on his headphones, he said, if you kissed him today, tomorrow you should make clear what you want. Don't leave Anthony guessing. My eyes widened. I didn't kiss him. Kyle turned back, eyes bulging. No? Then what's with the face when you walked in? I raised my hands in surrender. No kiss, but close. Very close. Close enough, he said. Then put on his headphones, leaving me with my tangled thoughts. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Or rather, I hadn't slept. I kept fearing that Anthony would wake up and pretend yesterday never happened. That the trembling rush between us was just an emotional impulse, meaningless to him. Around 9, As I was standing in front of the mirror fixing my hair for the 10th time, my phone buzzed. Anthony, where are you? Just 4 words twisted my stomach. Me dorm. How are you? Less than a minute later, a new message popped up. Anthony, come down. I'm outside. I jumped. Kyle, I yelled. I'm going down. Good luck with your boyfriend, he shouted back. I ran down the stairs, each step a wave of anticipation. When I got to the door, I saw Anthony standing by the team's pickup truck. He was in a red Badgers hoodie, hat pulled high, hands in pockets. He didn't look like he'd slept any better than me. He saw me, his lips quirked but not into a full smile. Hey, I replied, voice a bit hoarse. We both stood silent for a moment. Very awkward. It felt like 2 high schoolers who'd accidentally held hands for the first time. Finally, Anthony took a breath and said, I don't want things hanging. Yesterday wasn't impulsive for me. My heart shot to my throat. Me neither. Around us was the sound of wind. No students passing by. Nothing breaking that strange space. Anthony looked at me, his warm brown eyes holding something serious, like he was mustering courage for something important. But I don't know what to do next. I've never. He paused. Never liked a guy. I stepped a little closer, enough for his shoulder to block the wind for me. You don't have to know right away. I don't have a guidebook either. Anthony chuckled softly, small but genuine. I'm just scared. If the team knows, if friends know, if the coach knows. My chest tightened. I don't want to get you in trouble. Anthony shook his head. It's not your fault. I'm just not used to wanting someone I'm not supposed to want. I heard that word, supposed, and it bothered me. Not with him, but with the world tying him down. I said gently, as if speaking louder would startle him. If you want to keep it secret, I understand. But I don't want to pretend not to see you. Don't want every meeting to act like nothing's there. Anthony looked down at his shoes, then up at me. I don't want to pretend anymore. Really couldn't breathe for a few seconds. He continued, but I also don't know how not to pretend. We'll take it slow, I said. No need to label this right away. Just don't run away, okay? Anthony smiled faintly, clearer this time. I won't run from you. Maybe it was the cold wind or the morning light or just him. But in that moment, in the dorm parking lot full of cars, I really wanted to touch him. And I did. Not a hug, not a kiss. Just me reaching out very slowly and placing it on the back of his hand. A ridiculously small gesture, but it felt like I'd flipped a switch in him. Anthony looked down at my hand, inhaled, then gently turned his palm, so our fingers touched more clearly. We didn't hold hands, but neither pulled away. Tonight, Anthony said, eyes still on our hands. Are you free? My team has practice, but after, I want to see you. I smiled uncontrollably. I'm free. He looked up, that gaze, scared, relieved, and hopeful. So tonight. Yeah, tonight. He pulled his hand back, as if keeping it longer would turn into something else. He got in the truck, closed the door, and rolled down the window. Andrew, he said. Yeah, I really notice you. I don't know what my face looked like then, but it definitely wasn't cool. His truck drove off, leaving me in the parking lot, heart exploding like fireworks, grinning like an idiot. Tonight, maybe tonight everything would change. In what direction? I wasn't sure, but I knew I wanted to be there to find out. Whatever it was, I wanted Anthony. And now, for the first time, he wasn't hiding from it either. That evening, I arrived at the Badgers practice field much earlier than the agreed time. Not because I was eager. Well, actually, because I was eager. I stood in the empty stands, hands in pockets, watching Anthony run the final drills. The stadium lights cast a soft golden glow on his body. Strong, fast, but I could sense moments when his eyes flicked toward me. When practice ended, the other players left the field in roaring laughter, while Anthony lingered, trying to act normal. I came down from the stands, waiting for him by the sideline. He took off his helmet, hair wet with sweat, breathing heavily, but his smile, softer than usual. You came early. I didn't want to make you wait. You say it like I'm the one who's been waiting for you for weeks, Anthony teased lightly. I shrugged, my heart skipping. Maybe you have. We both went quiet for a bit. Just the rustling of the night field. Anthony looked around, probably to make sure no one was watching. Then he stepped closer to me, close enough that his breath was hotter than the cold night wind. Andrew, he said softly, like he was afraid of breaking something fragile between us. I've thought a lot, today, and the weeks before. I don't know what I'm stepping into, but I know one thing. I swallowed dryly. What? I want to step into it with you. A warmth ran down my spine. I didn't know how to respond except to smile. A gentle but real smile that made my eyes sting a bit. I'm here, I replied. If you want to try, I'll go with you. Anthony took a deep breath, like he was finally releasing a burden he'd carried for so long. Then, almost instinctively, he reached out. Not to hold hands, just to place it on the back of my neck, very slowly, very cautiously. Can I? He asked. Yeah, I whispered. You can. And Anthony kissed me. Not bold like in movies, not rushed like fear. A trembling, warm, hesitant kiss, but so genuine it made my heart want to cry. When we pulled apart, neither could look straight into the other's eyes right away. Anthony grinned sheepishly, blushing more than me. Andrew, I notice you. Really notice. I smiled back. Yeah, I know. And me too. The night in Madison was freezing. But right then, in the empty stadium, the warmth from that kiss was enough to make me believe that some things, though difficult, though scary, are still worth holding on to. And Anthony was one of those things.